Our next lesson in economics is titled A Guide to Learning World Financial Terms. Let's look at our goal for this lesson. Our goal for this lesson is to define the economic terms that are used in a global economy. Look at your vocabulary words. I'm going to read the definition and then say a word. I want you to repeat the word after me. When one enjoys an increase in production and demand, when prosperity is high, it's called a boom. The use of one's own goods to produce more goods for the future is capital goods. Two or more businesses which battle for the consumer's purchasing choices is competition. A printed certificate which entitles the bearer to certain financial benefits such like a discount or rebate is a coupon. The strength of the dollar against foreign currencies is the exchange rate. Adding up the value of all of a nation's goods and services in a given year is gross national product. Affluence or superabundance is prosperity. A strategy used to entice the consumer to make a purchase is sales tactics. A tax on imported goods is a tariff. You look at the financial pages of the newspaper and you're confused. What is a tariff? What does GNP stand for? Then you turn on the television and are puzzled by the reports you are given. What are capital goods? Why do I need to know about exchange rates? This section will take you on a tour that will help you understand the phrases so common in businesses around the globe today. Okay. On your notes, I want you to write the date. Okay, first we're going to talk about a boom. If a company is experiencing great prosperity, we say they are experiencing a boom. So a boom is great prosperity. Production is climbing. Demand for the product or service is high. Employment by the company is widespread. When Apple Computers first introduced Macintosh computers to the public, Apple enjoyed a boom. Snapple Beverages saw a boom during their first years in the market. However, even though many companies may anticipate an economic boom due to their decisions, they may be wrong. A prime example was in 1989 when Sony Corporation spent $3.4 billion to purchase the movie studio Columbia Pictures. Sony bought the studio with the belief that sales of their video and audio machines would be boosted by the popularity of films and music they play on the VCRs and CD players, and that the movies would benefit from promotions tied in with the Sony product line. The result was a financial failure. Sony Corporation reported a loss of $3.3 billion for fiscal 1995. Over $2.7 billion of that loss was due to the problems involved with its movie studio business. Okay, so an example of this was when Apple Computers first introduced Macintosh. They experienced a boom. Sony Corporation thought that they would. What year was it? I was trying to see. 1989. In 1989, they purchased a movie studio, Columbia Pictures. So they purchased Columbia Pictures. Okay, they spent $3.4 billion. They spent $3.4 billion. And then they reported a loss of $3.3 billion. they reported a loss of $3.3 billion. So think about it. That means that they lost $6.7 billion by that transaction. They thought it was going to give them a boom, but it didn't. Competition. Let's talk about competition. So the next term we're going to talk about, competition. When you walk through a mall and you find 4 different stores trying to sell you the same type of winter wear, you realize that the stores are competing. Competition occurs when a number of businesses try to sell the same goods to the same customers. Whether it is cookies, comic books, or Christmas trees, businesses will compete with one another in order to get your dollar. Whether they do this through high-pressure sales tactics or coupons in the newspaper, they're in financial competition. Rebates may be given to a consumer, usually in the form of money sent back after a requirement is met, such as sending in a part of the product packaging. International corporations as well as neighborhood stores engage in competition. Okay, so it's when businesses try to sell the same goods to the same customers. Okay, so this is when businesses sell same goods to the same customers. Then we say that they're in competition. So then they use different tactics to get you to buy it from them, such as rebates and coupons. Okay, capital goods. South African diamond mining companies will use some of the diamonds in their drill bits so that they can dig into more rock and find more diamonds. So the use of their own goods in order to produce more goods for the future is called capital goods. So capital goods the use of your own goods to produce more goods for the future. Okay. Use of a good to produce more of that good. Okay, they use diamonds to find more diamonds. So you're using a good to produce more of that same good. Okay, that's called capital goods. All right, let's talk about the exchange rate. Exchange rate. When you visit Mexico, you might assume that everything financial is equal and that $1 equals 1 peso. This is not correct. Based upon the strength of the dollar against foreign currencies, your American dollar may have more power than you may think, or it may have less. At one time in Mexico, $1 could buy 9 pesos. At another time, $1 was worth 22 pesos. Before traveling to any country, it is wise to learn about the current exchange rate. In some countries, the rate may change from day to day. As we will be studying later, the new European currency unit, called the euro, is beginning to change the face of currency exchange between countries in Europe. Member nations of the European Monetary Union have been trying to eliminate the burden of nation-to-nation exchange rates, which have been hindering tourism and trade for many years. So the exchange rate is the strength of the dollar against foreign currencies. So it's the strength of the dollar against foreign currencies. Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about is GNP. GNP is gross national product. Gross national product. How can we tell how strong France is financially? We might hear of Germany boasting of economic growth, but how can we be sure they are telling the truth? What is the rate of growth in Japan's financial strength since last year? The way to measure the growth of a nation's economy is by using the gross national product as a sort of measuring stick. Adding up the value of all the nation's goods and services in a given year makes up the country's gross national product. Even if the country's production facilities are located in another country, experts will still factor in the value of that facility. After arriving at a gross national product, experts can compare the GNP to previous year's worth of results. After adjusting for inflation, the GNP of a nation can be measured. Okay, so the GNP is adding the value of all a nation's goods and services for a given year. So adding the value of a nation's goods and services for a given year. And that tells us their GNP. All right. We've talked about a boom. That's when a country is experiencing great prosperity. We've talked about competition, where businesses try to sell the same goods to the same customers. We've talked about capital good. That's using a good to produce more of the same good. We've talked about the exchange rate. That's the strength of the dollar against foreign currencies. GNP, gross national product, it's adding the value of a nation's goods and services for a given year. Now we're going to talk about tariff. Tariff. Products brought in from other countries are called imports. During the 1970s, the American car market was filled with Japanese imports. Americans were buying the cheaper cars, and many car dealerships in this country were left with unsold vehicles, filling their lots. The government instituted a tariff in order to raise the price of the Japanese cars and make the market more competitive. So a tariff is a tax on imported goods. Tariffs can be on imported clothes, furniture, vehicles, or other items the government feels necessary to tax. All right, I want you to go back through this lesson, study it, answer the questions, and turn in your notes.